assessment process. I have no idea what you mean.
That is teacher standard. So you can make links to, because the EYP, the EYP is not there, but you can link to teacher standards.
Okay.
It's EYT actually. We need to change that.
Okay.
Anything else, Tracy? Does that help? So leading in practice is different, because when you plan, observe, assess, you are taking a lead in some way for that in terms of your planning, assessing. So I think leadership is spoken from that perspective. How do you lead? It's not.
Yeah, that's how I was struggling now.
We're picking a reflection model, aren't we? So I'm going to do Gibbs' reflection, and I would base it out how he's to describe feelings. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as you were very good with your evaluation. Yeah.
So you pick a model of reflection, for example, like you say Gibbs, because we've got experience of that. And that's how you would use that model to evaluate
how the activity. You don't have to necessarily use Gibbs. You can also use Moon's model, which we discussed.
They all look something apart from Gibbs. We've used Gibbs so much. Yes.
Yeah, but again, Gibbs has its own advantages. I think for a level 6, you need to push yourself a bit. You can be critical with it. I'm not saying Gibbs is not. Don't get me wrong. There are different models, and it is your approach and style of writing. So it's not wrong, but there are certain. I think the reflection requires anywhere where you reflect, whether it is task 1 or 2. It requires me to see you have understood the subject. Not just in relation to this module, but on the whole that you've learned over these years. So understanding of the subject, understanding of early childhood studies, and the application of that learning. So concepts that you've learned so far, whether it is leadership or whether it is application of theories or whether application of research that whether it is Frankfield, Allen, anything. I think it is application of that to reflect on your own practice. So if you're not applying it as you work, then that's of no value, and you are reflecting on that application that you are doing in practice.
And you're going to use the
So for go on.
The EYT standards. You can look at your own practice, decide and use a model of reflection to talk about that.
Yeah. Right. You might see that in your practice when you did that activity, you were successful in meeting some, but some you weren't, or you have completely missed out, or there was an opportunity but you missed out because of some other things, or it didn't occur to you. So it's things like you might, when you come back, you might realize that I've been very good with the child taking initiative, offering choices. But I have had to intervene in places. I've kind of had child-initiated, adult-led, both in my, and it's about application of that knowledge, the right terms, and whether you're applying it in your practice. Are you with me? So you might have done sustained things without realizing.
Yeah.
But now that you're reflecting, you do realize that that's become part of your practice. What has become part of your practice of all this that you've learned is what I'm interested in. It's just as simple as I can put into.
I feel better than when I walked in, put it that way.
Yeah.
It's what has become part of your day-to-day practice of all that you've learned. Has Bowlby become part of your practice? Has Alan become part of your practice? Has any aspects of Reggio become part of your practice? And it's hard to question at this stage. It's only when you come back and you start reflecting on what you've done, you realize, I've done this and I've done this.
It's
I've done some
as well.
And
we come from, because I'm in a children's centre. And to be fair, I don't go any sessions. I observe sessions to see. So that's where I'm struggling, because not only do I the parents there, but I'm a step removed, because I normally go in and observe practice, and now I'm going to go in and do.
But you have that knowledge, isn't it? So when you are that knowledge, because you are doing observation, so you know what to look for in practice. And some of it I'm sure is part of the way you talk to them and the way you approach children and families. So when you are with them, it's about now thinking back at how do I define myself and my practice. You're defining your practice in some way. What underpins my practice? Which approaches underpin my practice? What is my approach? What is my pedagogy? Okay, so you will be fine with it. And as I said, I'm more interested in the learning. You might realize in your reflection that I could have done this as well. But now the time is gone, you can't do it now. But that's a learning which you will make sure that you kind of include it later on. So
well,
you may have.
That's why I like Gibbs, because you can have an action plan at hand. And that's
Gibbs, Kolb. Kolb is also good in terms of you coming up with your own theory, realizing that you construct your own meanings to it. So I think I'm not saying which model, that it will be your choice. It will be the depth of reflection, the quality of reflection which you will be marked. So it's fine. And I think you choose the one that you're comfortable with. Otherwise, you might end up choosing, just because I've said, you might end up choosing something something that you're not comfortable with, which will not allow you to then reflect properly.
So I think I'm at a stage where I can try something new. I need to do what I'm comfortable with, I think.
When's the student got to be in then, the test term?
28th of March.
Not long then. How many weeks does that benefit?
So the government's response was that the workforce supporting our babies, young children and parents should be well qualified, well respected. And this was post the graduate-led report. Moving away from the idea that teaching young children is somehow less important or inferior to teaching school-age children was introduced, and that's why earlier teacher standards were introduced, because we had teacher standards, but we didn't have anything specific to early years. So that's why they introduced earliest teacher standards, so that there is this protocol that people can follow for young ones. The standards will support the concept of teaching in early years, help spread leadership, because with the more you improvise your standards of teaching, the more you are able to lead in practice. So, and have equivalent standards for classroom teachers. And then, of course, they did some research, and the government's response as part of that research. So, 75% of respondents felt that the standards set or partially set appropriate expectations for what earlier teaching. So, when these standards were out, of course, the government tried to question them and do some research. And some of them did feel that they were trying to set what the teachers should be doing. 70% of respondents felt there was no duplication across the standards, which is also very important. So when you actually look at each standard, you will realize that there are quite a few strands. What I've listed is 8, but as I said, there are descriptors for each of those. But 70% felt there was no duplication, which is an achievement. 73% of respondents felt that something vital was missing from the standards, which we don't know as such, but there could be elements that might be missing, and a lot could be related to the aspect of care. A number of key themes emerged from the consultation, and these have been drawn from where 10% of more respondents commented and no area prompted. So there were certain themes, basically, from the ones who responded that emerged. The key themes that came through teacher standards were not enough focus on birth to 3s. So the teacher standards, although they were published, did not specifically focus on birth, on babies. Celebrating diversity, equality of opportunity and inclusive practice is not clearly identified, or is not coming out in teacher standards very, very clearly, is what they're trying to say. Importance of parental relationships. So if you look at those 8 points that we just discussed for teacher standards, and then see whether these themes are being answered or not. So even in those teacher standards that we have, some of this is not justified clearly. It might be achieved in some way, but these themes were something that need more further attention. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you are following teacher standards, all I'm trying to say is that it might not touch upon everything. So you might want to look at these themes and see, because you may be demonstrating some of this in your practice, which the teacher standards might not address directly. If you look at the descriptors, it does touch upon these. I'm not saying that, but it's not very clear, and that is what they got in their research, that it's not very clearly identified for somebody to interpret and make sense. So I think when you do your reflection, you can make links to teacher standards, but do not forget these as well. Okay? Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to focus on. Focus on phonics is too narrow and needs broader focus on early literacy strategies from birth to 5. And I think this has been an ongoing debate that we are not focusing enough on these literacy skills. Too much emphasis on group learning and not on individual learning. So the expectation to work in groups is higher as opposed to giving individual targets for children. Too education and school focused, which is also a criticism, because these teacher standards were adapted from, the earliest teacher standards were adapted from the teacher standards. So there has been that, and lack of reference to leadership skills. Again, it's there. If you read the document, it is there, but it's not clearly identified for somebody to feel that it is. So there is some criticism around it, but I think you need to keep that criticism in mind when you're using teacher standards, because that is what we are currently following. So we will use them, but keep the criticisms in mind. Okay? Yeah, I think I will stop there for today. But and I think I have given you enough points to reflect. So use some of it, draft your stuff for your tutorial and come. And then you can start probably working on it. Your task 2 does not, your task 2 is an activity, so that will be your call. So if you are pretty much ready with it in terms of what you want to do, you can prepare your final points. If you're using GIBS, that's fine, but if there are more questions around task, I think task 2 is straightforward because it is doing the activity and then reflection on it. But I think if you come up with your key points of reflection, what exactly are you going to reflect on? So leading is one, but are there other points that you wish to reflect on based on teacher standards or based on themes that we have just looked into? You can draw upon those points and just check with me if there is more that you want to add or something like that. So I think after that tutorial, your task 2 will be straightforward for you. You can start writing actually if you feel okay with it. You don't have to wait. Task 1 will need some structuring, so I think that is something that you should definitely bring. And I will not discuss task 3, I think, because I wouldn't get time. Because we have another tutorial, but task 1 and 2 is what we will discuss.
Yeah. Can we just check the tutorial times, please?